To discuss the role of climate change in all this and how we tackle it, I'm joined by the former government chief scientist who advised the government on climate change, Sir David King, and the Vice Mayor of Rotterdam, whom you heard from earlier, Alexander von Huffelen. Now, are you surprised by these floods?
I am surprised. I think it's all happened a bit earlier than I would have expected, in the sense that we put in a report to government in 2004 on flood and coastal defences. And in that report, we used the best that climate science could produce for us to anticipate what the challenges would be to the British Isles. The biggest challenge to the British Isles from climate change is flooding. And so we set it out in some detail. This was an enormous piece of work. And the net result was that we were saying within 20 years, this sort of thing would be happening. So yes, it's all happening a bit more quickly.
So you predicted it, but the timescale is collapsed.
Right.
So we're going to have to get used to more of this. As far as we can tell, there's going to be more of this.
I believe there's going to be more of this. That is right. And of course, what this means is that the Flood Defences Plan, which became an act in 2010, needs to be continued to be rolled out.
Do you feel that governments have really listened to that research that you did?
Yes, I do.
And they've acted on it?
Yes, and I think that while it is very important to listen to people who are suffering from the flooding, what we're not hearing from is the people who have not suffered from flooding. That obviously follows. And so, for example, in the last 10 weeks, the Thames barrier has been closed 29 times. And I say this because this is exceptional. That's 1/5 of the usage of the Thames barrier since 1983. So this is a very exceptional time. London has not suffered in the way that these villages are suffering now. We mustn't forget that there are areas of Britain that have been managed through this crisis.
What lesson do you think we learn if the climate really is changing in the way that authorities like Sir David suggest?
Well, basically we see this climate change also in other parts of Europe, in Rotterdam, but also we've seen it last year in Germany and so on. Basically what we see is water coming, if you are a delta city, from 4 sides. It's coming down the river, it's coming because of higher sea level, there's more extreme rainfall, and there's groundwater issues. And what you need to do is really find innovative ways to tackle these issues. We used to build dams and dikes and think we could protect it ourselves, but now we are seeing also that we need more innovative ways. We need to live more with water than fight it. And one of those things is give rivers more room. And that you can do with dredging, but you also give them, literally more room. You need to find more ways to store water, and you need also more green areas outside of cities, but also inside cities, so you can store the water, and that's what you need to work on.
What does this sound like to you who've been suffering this flooding for the last week or so?
It sounds like I looked at a house to buy in Norfolk area, and the relevance is that the Sea Defences Programme out there, certain areas of the Norfolk coastline is being allowed to flood, houses are being lost. Are we saying now that certain areas of Berkshire are going to be allowed to flood along the river? Are these going to be allowed to? Because at the moment, the way the government's reacted to what's happened, information from these experts, nothing's happened in Datchet. I'm a Datchet resident. Nothing's happened in Wraysbury. The defences came late. We knew Sunday the flood was coming. Tuesday the army arrived, or Sunday night the military arrived in Datchet. But they built one sandbag wall with cameras rolling. Was it a PR exercise? Why didn't they just dump trailers into the village and say to the residents, if the flood comes near you, block up your air bricks. We will do it for ourselves, because we've had to do it for ourselves, and we will do it for ourselves.
Look, these two guys are making a much bigger point about national and international management. Now, there are going to be places that are going to come out of that less well than others.
Indeed, but it's information.
Go on.
Information. It's joined up thinking. I'm representing Marlow. We had it a few days before Wraysbury got it. Yeah. But the point is that actually we were able to predict that a surge coming down from Henley in Oxfordshire was going to hit us 3 days later, and we were quite prepared. And actually, when the army turned up today, we really had no use for them. The point is that if we at a local level can predict those floods coming our way and take our own defences, then why can the government not take advice from a report, advice from local people who know? It's not a shock to anybody here that these floods have come. It seems to be a shock to the government. The point is, we know it's coming, your expert know it's coming, everybody knows it's coming, except the government.
Well, don't you think you... To be fair, you said the government did take your report seriously. Did they spend the money that you anticipate they would need to spend?
I think the amount of money that is spent depends on the amount of money that can be apportioned to this particular problem. By which I mean, I'm not the person sitting in the Treasury saying this amount on health services.
That's a rather theological argument.
Well,
you have investigated this matter at some length and in some detail. You conclude that action needs to be taken. My question was, have they spent the money they should have spent?
our report said in 2004 we need to... Our report said in 2004 we must spend an additional sum of money each year, adding to that sum of money going forward.
Has that happened?
And it happened until the financial crisis.
So it's not happening now. It's stopped.
It hasn't stopped, Jeremy. It would be wrong to say
it is not growing at the rate you anticipated it would have to grow.
Right.